So this week I posted Love Yourself, recorded by Justin Bieber, written by Ed Sheeran. I think it's such a funny song. Just that idea of like, yeah, if you like the way you look that much, you should go love yourself. the Wikipedia article about this, yes, I was doing some intense research on this. The Wikipedia article that I read about this was saying that it's about an ex-lover who's a narcissist. And that got me thinking about, this idea of calling somebody a narcissist. I would be curious to hear your thoughts in the comments about this. It seems like labeling people in general is not the best, most mature idea. It's like it's like calling somebody a jerk or calling somebody a narcissist or something like that. It seems like it's not the most mature thing to do. And I've actually been reading a book called Feeling Good, The New Mood Therapy by Dr. David Burns. It was written back in the 1980s when cognitive behavioral therapy was first being developed. It's a very popular book, extremely well written. I highly recommend it if you're interested in cognitive behavioral therapy. And in the book, one of the important principles is that there are 10 cognitive distortions you've got to look out for. And he calls them errors in thinking. And he identifies 10 cognitive distortions or errors in thinking, which he has identified as particularly pernicious in his practice. And one of those cognitive distortions, the other ones being like black and white thinking, overgeneralization, dismissing the positive, that kind of thing. The one that this brought to mind is labeling or mislabeling. And so that's basically the essence of labeling somebody, is being like, oh, that guy's a jerk. Like, he literally considers that an error in thinking or a cognitive distortion, because when you just sort of put somebody into that box, when you just label somebody as a jerk, then this complex individual who has so many facets of their being and has done so many good and bad things, or who's just like this dynamic creature that you can't really put in a box. You're just saying like, oh, they're a jerk, and then there's nothing you can do about it, and then that just makes you miserable. So labeling, not a good idea, not very mature, but also not very good for your mental health, according to cognitive behavioral therapy. That being said, it is my opinion that that's something that you want to know. Like, you want to look out for that. Like, am I just the sort of person who just labels people all the time and then considers myself a victim because then there's nothing I can do about it? That's one thing. But also, I genuinely think sometimes it's just valid to just be like, that guy's a jerk, and just own it. Like when somebody just sort of screws you over, it's like, wow, that was a jerk thing to do. And then you can move on and like figure out how you're going to deal with the situation and take responsibility for your part and that sort of thing. But I think it's totally fine to just sort of have that phase of just being like, wow, that's a jerk right there. So I would be curious what you think about that, like, in the first place, because I haven't always had that opinion, but I'm at that opinion now. And actually, as I'm saying this, it reminds me, there's this movie Bewitched, and Will Ferrell, I think, is one of the leads in it. And there's such a good part in the movie where Will Ferrell's been a total jerk to this girl, and then finally she gets tipped over the edge, and she just starts yelling like, he's being a jerk! It's such a great moment. That's like my favorite moment in the whole movie. I didn't even enjoy the movie very much overall, but that part is so good. I'm gonna link it in the description. It's so good. So anyways, I think that that's a legitimate sort of cathartic response that you need sometimes. And then but then I would be curious what you think about that, whether it's like okay to label some people sometimes. And then the other thing that I'm curious about is like the idea of labeling somebody a narcissist specifically, because there's a lot of online content these days about narcissism that I identified when I first sort of got into self-help stuff. stuff. And then also just in everyday life, when you talk to people, people will be like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that guy's a narcissist, or people will talk about their ex as a narcissist. And one thing that is like maybe another hot take here is that I honestly think that it's usually better. I think that it's usually better to just call somebody a jerk rather than a narcissist. Because, I mean, if you're a doctor giving somebody a personality disorder diagnosis, then yeah, the term narcissist is fine. Otherwise, I don't really see what it additionally adds to the situation, except that it makes it so that whoever's calling them a narcissist um, basically feels more legitimized in what they're upset about. So I think a lot of people use the word narcissist because they're afraid if they just say, oh, my ex was a jerk, then people will be like, well, yeah, of course you think that your ex is a jerk. They're your ex, you know? Like, you obviously had a falling out of some sort. And people want to be able to say something beyond just like, my ex is a jerk, that makes them feel like, you know, really legitimized in thinking that ex is a bad person or something. But honestly, like, I just stand by the thing that I just said, which is that, like, you know, when you just call somebody a jerk, that's okay. Like, that is your experience of that person, and it's part of a process that you're gonna have to go through when you're trying to figure out like what you're gonna do next about it and how you're gonna take responsibility for your part. But I just think that it's okay to just say that they're a jerk, and if people don't believe you, or if people aren't supportive of you in the way that you want them to be when you say that your ex is a jerk, then that's, I mean, it doesn't feel good. But I don't think it's better to hide behind a diagnosis like narcissism just to make it feel legitimate. Like, your experience is legitimate either way. So it's okay to just call them a jerk, and then it keeps things clear in your mind as well. So curious what you think about that in the comment section as well. Is it helpful to call people narcissists when you're not a doctor who can actually make that diagnosis?